Got major problems with it. For me, looking at that video, that cat hadn't done anything wrong.
That's that. Welcome to Silly Wales. This is a mental health podcast, and this podcast is for everyone, but it might not be for you. And yeah, we discuss things that are a bit difficult. It's been a while. I haven't had a chance to get back in the feel of it. Okay, myself and Joe and I, we've been away. Joe is still away. Joe is doing this while on holiday. Like I edited it. There we go. I can't even speak English. I edited last week's episode while in Sweden, and don't know how it came out half good because I didn't listen to it at all. I just went through the editing process and guessed it all. And this week will be the same, even though I'm in the country.
I feel like there's less editing needed, or I feel like the quality is a little bit easier and higher in certain ways when it's just us talking to each other next to each other, because we generally just have less sort of dead air, and we have because we're right next to each other, we know what we can like work off each other very easily and like flow better and stuff like that. And also just one mic, so man,
Yeah, true that.
I am indeed speaking with low quality.
Yeah, we're back to like episode 1 quality at the moment. I'm in a new setup,
yeah.
so I have like an electronic desk that moves up and down, and I'm in like a different room of the house, which means that might sound like Joe. Joe, where are you?
I am in the Basque country. I am in France, in a place called Saint-Jean-de-Luz in southwest of France, which if you end up looking at it on the map, is so close to the border of Spain. And it is part of what would be described as the Basque country, which is that of the Basque culture. Kaixo to people from Basque. Egon Ona or Egon Ona, depending on where you're from. Yeah, it's some of the most beautiful country I think I've been to in France and in Spain. And I have been on both sides of the border. I snuck past. And it's just it's astonishing. It's very green. It's because it's on the coast where the Bay of Biscay is. Even though it's hot, and it's not as hot as it was in Toulouse, but because it's hot, it's actually it's quite a nice temperature a lot of the time. But the Bay of Biscay is means that like there's actual like storm clouds and things like that, and it means that it actually gets a lot of really good weather for plants and stuff. So it's think of like mountains and stuff, because you're at the Pyrenees, the long chain of mountains that essentially creates the border between France and Spain. Then you have the heat of the south of France / north of Spain. Then you have the storms coming in from the Bay of Biscay, and it just creates this sort of like really sort of idyllically natural landscape and area that is just stunningly beautiful. And yeah, I've had a really good time here. Spent most of our time in Toulouse. Have you been to anywhere in the south of France, particularly?
No, I was very much northern France. I think the most southern place I've been is Paris. So
Wow.
yeah. So I was very much northern.
Yeah, it is actually my second time in the south of France, because I've not well, that's not quite true, but in terms of like a place in the south of France, and not more specifically the Pyrenees section of it. And Toulouse is apparently, I think when the dad was describing it, is kind of like it's sort of Manchester in terms of like size and things like that, at least like population wise, or maybe a bit smaller than that. But it's very similar, like size, roughly population. It's like in the top 10, Toulouse. And it is a very nice city. I think it's called the Pink City. If you ever go there or you see pictures of it, you'll see like there's the sort of stone that's used for a lot of the buildings are like sort of like orangey pink, for like especially the older buildings, which just gives a really nice atmosphere. And this you'll really like, Alex. This area of the the Occident, which Occidental France, Occident, and all of that, where Toulouse is, and then also the Basque Country, has a very oddly Italian Tuscan vibe to its like to the roofs of all its buildings. So I feel like I'm in Assassin's Creed when I'm around here, and it's so beautiful. Like it's definitely an aesthetic quality and that I really really enjoy. So I've been so it's like a warm happy feeling like being around these sorts of buildings and stuff. It's great.
Like, you were in, well, you're still are in France. I was in Sweden, and I was in there for a very prestigious, like the Youth World Cup, even though it's club football. And yeah, it was a great experience. You know, people said it would be like a life changing or career altering experience, and it was. They were not wrong in that aspect at all. Yeah, I'm gonna be diplomatic, which is a word that's been used to describe me in a bad way last week. It's been like it's
Oh,
been
really?
one whole week
Okay.
since I've been back, and I've no, I don't know. I told Joe already via like a long podcast, but voice note. But for the sake of like this eventually coming back around and people listening to this and then people figuring out who I'm talking about, I'm going to be very diplomatic with it all. So when people find out who I'm talking about later, in like a few years' time, I can double down on everything and name them, name them entirely. Um, Effectively, when you go to a tournament like this, you have your squad of players, whatever. I had my under 16s team. They're great, great, great bunch of kids. You know, you have two coaches, and you work together as a team, and you try and make things work, and you just do what's best for the kids. There's the whole competitive side of it, of course, and you appeal to that too. However, at the core of it, it's a football tournament. You know, yeah, that's what it is. And to say that I was partnered with the definition of incompetency would probably be a disservice to the word incompetency, you know? I don't know.
Hmm.
One of the things that, as someone who has feelings for the world and other people in the world, one of my like major like turn offs, and I have very few, is just incompetency. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, that's really harsh. Like, you don't like people who don't know what they're doing? No, 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 no. I love it when someone doesn't know what they're doing and they know they don't know what they're doing. Why? Because that's me 99% of the time anyway. However, what I do not like is someone who doesn't know what they're doing, but they think that they do. That's dangerous.
Hmm.
That is borderline, you're gonna die, you know? Like, oh, I know how to lift up this really heavy box, and now your back is broken. You know? There's nothing there's nothing better than watching somebody be confidently incorrect. But there's nothing worse than being partnered with somebody who is confidently incorrect. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into too much detail, okay? Because again, like I said before, I can't wait for this to circle back in a few years' time and people be like, "Who is he talking about?" And then someone be like, "Hey, you sneak this in," and for me to go, "No, I'm gonna double down on everything." Um, but for the sake of diplomacy and being the professional that I aim to be, I am going to put it simply and say I definitely deserve the definition of more, more everything, whatever it is, more. Just give me everything. Put put something down on a piece of paper so I can sign it and give it to me because I don't know what it is. Uh, Safeguarding 16 kids, sure. Safeguarding 16 and the 17th being a man child, didn't sign up for that. But guess what? We did it anyway. We had a good time. Uh, I was meant to learn from a more experienced coach, and I think I learned everything not to do. I think the kids learned everything that they do not want to be. I think that I was pushed, and this is where we get into the mental health side of the show. I was pushed mentally to a level that I have only ever been pushed 3 times in my life, and I I'm so grateful for those 2 moments. Well, first 3 moments, and now this is the fourth, I guess. Like I am surprisingly, to everyone who knows me personally, this is might come as a surprise to even you, Joe. I'm surprisingly really good under pressure from other people. Not so good under pressure from myself. So the idea that I was going to buckle at any point during this was kind of asinine and kind of funny. Because as long as it's not me putting on the pressure, then we'll be fine. What I like about this whole thing is that, as I said to you on the voice note, Joe, I want to be like the best, like whatever it is in football I can be. Like, I don't know what it is, but I just want to be the best at it now. And that is a fire that you do not want to light under me, because that means that I am going to become effectively the Kendrick Lamar of the story here. Like, you, I'm really ignorant. I'm not. But in the situation that I was in here, folks, there's only so much I can do to be, well, I can't be any worse than that guy. So I kind of have to be the Kendrick here, because there's nowhere else I can go. Like, I have to purposefully be like terrible in order to just about match his levels of incompetency. And that is straining myself. So I kind of have to just be, the Kendrick Lamar of this story. I'm not going to like air out any grievances here, because I feel like that's just a bit unprofessional. But I'm just going to get off my chest and say this. I've never felt like I was better than anybody, ever, at anything, until that week finished. And I was like, oh, there are levels to this game, and I am above this guy right now. Anyway.
The ELO ranking of me and him is visible. I can see the numbers above each of our heads, and there's a huge difference.
Like, yeah, I don't know.
It's a strange thing to be in a place like that. Like I've had a job where I've definitely met people where I think, oh, right now at the very least I can see the stark difference between you and me as far as our capacity and ability to do this job, and so on. And like, when I'm on, I'm definitely providing more than when you're on, or whatever. And I don't tend to like, and in those moments, that's not really a kind of important thing in many ways, because our responsibilities are simple and they don't really matter all that. Like, it doesn't matter too much if I'm on or they're on. It's only really a question of like, if things were going real poorly and you had to like choose a very select few that could be on, like, tonight, would you want me or this other person? Then there might be a difference. And that's an interesting thing to come across, like, to realize that, like, oh, okay, in if push comes to shove, at the very least, it would be a big deal for like me to be on versus this other person. But I can't imagine being in a situation where I was in a job like yours, or like in the position that you were in, and kind of recognizing the level of difference and being like, oh, the responsibility is so lacking on one end, like from one side of this, that it's as much a burden to have them around as it is for them to actually like provide any sort of benefit. And in a scenario where you're dealing with, like, you're having to look after like people's well-being, and I mean, and lives, since obviously, like, the security of these kids are in a completely different country, that they're not like, and all of that stuff, it is such a big deal, and you never know what could happen. It would be horrible if something was to happen. It would be truly like the worst thing in the world. So just the idea to me of having that thought while on the job, and from what I understand, like relatively early on, in the process, is just is just like disheartening in the wrong way. In not, it's disheartening in like the worst way possible. It's not just like, oh, I'm kind of sad I'm having to deal with this week now. Thank God the week's over. It's like, oh no, like, I'm almost sad that it's almost disheartening to know that they're still going to be doing stuff after this is done,
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah,
even want them
yeah.
to. I don't want them to be doing this anymore. Like, I want them gone.
But in a way, I kind of don't, because I've never been in a situation before, Joe, like properly like this. I've seen incompetency around me a lot. Fine, cool. I've also been the incompetent one, but I also understood that part of becoming competent is being incompetent. So then there's a learning process. But then I feel like this guy's of a certain age where he feels like his methodology is the right methodology. And things, there's a time and place to like dig in and be like, this is what I'm doing. Like if you're in
Yeah.
a combat sport, right? Be it MMA, Muay Thai. I just came back from Muay Thai sparring. Like there's a time when you want to just dig in, you get your guard real nice and high, and you take a combo because you know that you're going to return like a 6-piece extra crispy with a dirty leg kick at the end of it, right? Cool, easy. You dig in because you know that there's going to be like rewards there. But there's times where you go, his fourth strike of that combo was pretty disgusting. I'm not okay. I need to take a step back or I'm going to get killed. So you know, okay, not what you want to do, but you'll change up the game plan. Yeah, this guy did the first thing and he just dug in. He took everything, but instead of throwing back a disgusting combo in return, he barely threw a jab. So what I kind of want is a reminder to myself, like, hey, remember, you've been here before, so you know what to look for in bad people and bad coaches. So yeah, I can't even. I think moving away from football entirely, Sweden, Gothia Cup, you were great. Gothenburg, you're a city that has literally nothing. I'm sorry, Gothenburg. Okay. Actually, do you know what? On Sweden, real quick. I don't think I've ever seen a more stereotypically accurate country than Sweden. Like,
Explain.
so the stereotype that all Swedish women are like ridiculously attractive or whatever. I
Right.
don't know how, but they've pulled it off, Joe. couldn't even begin to explain. Like they just have. Okay, good on them, Sweden. But Gothenburg, there's nothing there, man.
Soulless.
Yeah, it becomes a tourist hotspot for that week of football. But better yet, there's nothing there. There is nothing there at all. If me and you were to book a trip to Gothenburg today, we would want to leave today. Like, there is nothing. like, but on the mental health aspect of it all. So yeah, I was pushed to like a level because I was like left with kids by myself and all that stuff. But I was also pushed to a level where I didn't have a lot of time to myself either because somebody wants me for something. And I really do thrive in having moments to myself. And I had like maybe the other coach had, I shit you not, if you count in the hours of sleep he had, which was a lot, he had probably throughout the whole trip at least a whole day's worth of doing nothing. And I had, I counted this all in total, about 2.5 hours worth of just alone time. So, I like to think that, I said including sleep, excluding sleep. I like to think that that was a pressure test because I don't think I cope well with constant stimulation from something. Be it footballs being kicked
Right.
around, be it just everyone wanting to talk to you about something, be it just people wanting to just be nice and interact with you because people want to be nice. I don't think I cope well with that on constant for like days. Turns out I can. I don't change either. I get slightly more I got slightly more grouches as the week went on because as the week goes on, people's attitudes start to change and they get complacent and all that stuff. And so do you. You become complacent too. So you start making like silly mistakes
Yeah.
and but then like because the standard was set so low, any mistake I made, there was nothing I could have done that would have made it as low as that other coach. So it was fine, really. Like I don't know. I can't even tell you the other story around it because it will then reveal a bit too much. But like, let's just say mentally, I had a great time because I really felt like I overcame a lot of like personal demons in terms of like dealing with constant stimulation and dealing with like overexerting oneself and how to combat that and dealing with like putting up barriers and also being very diplomatic in situations where it could have ended in a KO victory for you, but you decided that you were going to just take the 10-8, all 3 rounds win. Like, because it's better to have the decision victory and everyone goes, he was super professional, than to have the KO win and everyone goes, he lost his cool and he knocked him out. Like, so you just have to kind of be very much like, proud of the fact that you kept your cool, even when he insulted your family and all that stuff. Hey, do your thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, cool, very proud of me. It's very rare you hear. I'm currently now technically unemployed. However, in September, if I don't have a job, I just go back to my old job. so I,
Yeah.
I've come back in to London. First thing I did was play a game of football. Great start. And I'm like, wow, I'm really full of energy. And I go straight back into work the day after. I'm like, wow, I really need to either figure out a new job or I need to confirm that I'm staying at this job. And then it hit me. Why not both? So at the leaving do, everyone said goodbye to me as if I was leaving forever. But I also said, if I'm back, I'm back. And then now I'm sat at the new desk, the new setup, which it sounds echoey. I apologize. I'll fix it in a few years. I'm looking at jobs. I'm like, wow, the market is open. But also, I have a safety net, which I absolutely hate. I hate the idea of having a safety net that I can always return to with comfort. So I'm trying my best to be like Manchester United in a transfer window for once and be proactive and get things sorted out quicker rather than waiting to the very last minute. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with these 6 weeks off now, I'm going to prepare for the new football season. I'm going to get my UEFA qualification sorted out as well in the next couple of weeks. I'm also going to go like balls deep into Muay Thai, I have training tomorrow now. I don't get to do training on the weekends normally, so I get to do it now. And I'm so ready. I want to cut weight appropriately. I want to see how far I can push myself in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and then from there, see how we see where we are really.
It's good fun. Good fun. I am in a. I mean, now we feel much more similar in terms of work. In terms of work stuff now, which is it's nice. It's nice to have someone else who's looking as much as I am now, because it's kind of like if one of us succeeds, it's sort of like we both get a little win. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, if you get something and I don't, it's like I can still get to be happy for you, which is great. Also, it's nice because it's like, okay, the job market isn't as shit as you think. Okay, it's okay. Like, we can do it. We can do it. There's there's evidence. There's evidence that you can get a job. But yeah, no. On that subject very specifically, I found out. Unfortunately, I found out this morning that I will not be getting that job. With the the outdoorsy job, unfortunately. Which is a shame, but I didn't know what to expect one way or another. I'm just happy I got as far as I did, and I got to talk with them as much as I did, and got a sense. And it honestly did give me it did sort of broaden my perspective on what I would be more willing to do. Um, I still don't know quite what I'm going to look for, but I think now I have a much larger area of interest as far as what I'm going to be searching for. Um, like I was very in my head that I wanted to do like admin sort of roles and things like that, like something that would scratch that side of me, the side of me that likes organizing things and likes um and likes work, and also likes working with numbers and a load of other stuff like that. But now I'm kind of in a sort of like, hey, maybe that can broaden a little bit, and I can kind of include things that I wouldn't think of myself as being able to do, like this sort of job, and just be like, yeah, fuck it, like, go for it. So I'm going to be a bit more experimental, or a bit more like open with jobs. But I think like I think it has also pushed me to the point where I'm so not looking for retail at this point that it's not even a question. Like, retail is just not on the
Oh,
cards for me
please don't
anymore,
go
if
back
that
into
makes sense.
retail, man. Like, please.
It's like, well, I am in retail, but like, but it's like going to another retail. Like, it's just not like it's not worthwhile, right? Um, it's not worthwhile kind of just doing something different for the sake of doing something different, but still being in that very same thing. And because I think about it, like sometimes I think, oh, what if I go back to working at Audi? Because I kind of preferred some of the ways that Audi did. That when I was working at Audi, I kind of prefer certain elements of it. And I and then I'll think this while I'm in an Audi shop and I'm looking around. Like I can think of the one in Worcester that I go to, and I'm looking around and I'm like, because I'm of the jobs I've been in now, I can visualize like be working there, right? Like I can watch the other people working and be like, okay, so that's what that would be like. I can think of myself on a shift at a certain time of day doing it, at a certain point, or like when it's busy, I can kind of see like how many people currently are active on the store and what are their energy levels like and what are they up to and blah blah blah. And every time I do, I'll look around, I'm like, yeah, yeah, I would just want to get out as quickly as possible still. Like would it be better? Maybe. But like, would I certainly not want to stay in this for very long? It's like, yeah. It's like I would want to be out within 6 months, preferably within three. You know what I mean? Like, fuck probation. So I it just I'm not I'm it's kind of that is off the cards for me. Like at this point, it's just straight up. I'm doing something different. Doesn't really matter what it is. I'm doing something different.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'll call you all for not for requiring me to have like shit tons of experience for certain jobs. Honestly, people they need to stop doing that. They need to be so much more open with like jobs with people not having like the specific experience of a job for like a year or 3 years or whatever they ask for, because it just makes it almost impossible. Um, having said all that, um, uh, I'm in this meantime. Uh, Here's a weird thing about going on a holiday for 2 weeks, right? It's I've been on week long holidays and 2 week long holidays. 2 weeks is like a magical amount of time because there's somewhere around the end of a week where hold on, I'm gonna cough. I'm gonna cough just so you know. Three, two, one. That's me. So, um, in there's some there's sometime around the end of a week when uh it becomes where you have now gotten used to where you are and what you're doing. Now, for us, it was weird because my brother joined in halfway through, and he joined in halfway through when we went from Toulouse to Saint Jean de Luz. Um, so it was and that was around like 6 days in. So that was, like that was about that week long, and we are in the new place, and it was wonderful to like to it's like see my brother and stuff like that. But then it's like, okay, now let's get used to this new area. But even then, there's something about kind of the days just going by. You start to get used to an idea, a feeling, a routine of what being on holiday is like. And for me especially, I realized this, I think maybe yesterday or the day before, that it felt like I'd been here for longer than 2 weeks. It feels like this month has been so long for no reason. And I was like trying to think why that was. And it's like because I have the ability or not even I have the ability, it's more like like mentally what happens to me. Because we talked about sort of the idea like when you move, and you kind of forget to like talk to your friends as much or something like that, or when you're not near people, like you don't interact with them the same way. Um, and like you just forget that they exist for a little bit. And I have, that part of my brain where it's like it kind of adapts very quickly to a different environment and kind of forgets the old environment, like that loss of the old environment. Um, Meant that I was like, oh, I feel like I've been here forever. Like I feel like I've been here for a month or whatever. And this is also in a scenario where like I'm not speaking I don't speak French as well as some of my family members do, and I honestly didn't. I didn't really speak French that much this year. Like I just didn't bother, because other people are, and I didn't actually do that much on Duolingo before I left. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm fine. Like my dad has been doing a lot more French over the past few years. He's fine. My mum can do French as well. My brother is did French at school like I did. I did. It's fine. Like it's not like when we went to Italy and I had to basically learn Italian in order to for the holiday, which is great, which is grand, but a very different sort of experience. And uh, but there is this kind of weird feeling I got where I felt like, oh, I could live here. I could if I felt like I was living here, kind of deal, and and like, oh, I could pick up the like I'm picking up like the pronunciation and the feeling of French and things like that in a different way. Which just comes, which obviously you experienced when you were in France, when you lived in France. The just experience of a language when you're surrounded by it and you're not having to learn it in a kind of isolated way. Um, Also, the thing that kind of really stood out to me here is that Basque stuff that I was talking about. Euskaria, I think is how you pronounce it. Um, or Euskaria. I don't quite know the pronunciation at the
I
beginning of
wouldn't
it,
know either.
but it's the Basque language. Um, I don't know what the geopolitical like history of Basque is like. I've been to the Basque Museum in God, what was it called? And when I remember it, I'll say, oh, no, not in Biarritz. Where was it? If I remember it, I'll remember it. Um, the but it would it's Bayonne, the Bayona. There you go. That's what it's called. It's called Bayonne in French, but in Basque it's Bayona or Bayonne. Um, it's uh and all of that. Like I have that historical context, but I don't know like what the desire is for like independence in the way that like Catalonia does in Spain and things like that. Um, and but it's been really nice, like because it's you know how when I spoke about Tunisia, I was in a place where there was French and Arabic, right? Like primarily, and then English was like a third other that you might see, but quite rarely. And there was a weird element here where I was seeing like either I was seeing French and Spanish or French and Basque as like the main two languages, and then when I was in Spain, Spanish and Basque, or I should be almost like Castilian and Basque, um, and or Euskara, and it took my and then that became my little fascination while I've been here, my little like kind of project, kind of reading about Basque and how it's pronounced and things like that, and trying to kind of get in with that side of things, which I love doing. I'm kind of like a history person when I go on holiday. I like learning about the sort of historical stuff. I like going to historical stuff, and it was just nice to have that little kind of side project for me, which made it just made this trip like a lot nicer because I've never been to this sort of section of France or Spain, um, and I've not been into any of the seven provinces of Basque Country. Um, so it was kind of so it was just a completely different experience. Um, Also, the first time I think that I've been to France for a holiday as long as this as well. Because I've been to France so many times in my life, but never for this long. And just having that kind of just enjoying it, man. It was great. This has honestly been a really good holiday. Like this is the last night. Tomorrow morning we have to go all the way back to Toulouse to take the car back, and then we have to go all the way to the airport, which I still think we have to figure that one out. We know where the bus. I think I know where the shuttle bus is. I was working out when we
This
were
is
in
going to date the
Toulouse.
episode now, but as Russia tried to sabotage your train lines as well.
uh, no, we but the antivirus software or whatever will might might end up fucking up the trains. Who knows? Um, yeah, no, I don't. we didn't notice that. We somehow missed that. We were like, you know, the flight stuff that happened. The flight like issues that
Yeah, because it
occurred.
messed up my flight.
Yeah. So my brother's flight here managed not to get messed up, and we were shocked because it was like because when we found out about it, it was like, oh, like that's actually surprising that it managed. Like he either like, and it was either one of those things where he just managed to get past like slightly, or you know, like he was just out of time with when it affected it, or when it came into effect, or it just somehow was like a single, like a smaller company or like a smaller flight company that didn't use it. I don't know, but managed not to get beat by that, and managed to get to the airport and all that fine, so no problem. And then found that out the next day, and I was like, "Oh shit! Oh, okay." So the world just had like shit itself for a moment because because of some what was it, Russian bots? Is that what it was? I
No,
don't remember
no,
quite the.
literally, like
It was just straight up
nothing to
Russia.
do with Russia with the whole like when the day went to. No,
Oh,
it was actually because we were also in a bubble like that as well, where we wouldn't know. But a a normal program that everyone uses, I can't remember what it's actually called. They just had to do an update, like a routine update, and that update just did not work, and that caused everything to be broken down. It wasn't nothing malicious, or anything like that either. It was just like
oh, okay,
we
cool.
here's an update. Oh, we have to reset our computer. Sure thing, we can do that, and then nothing worked. It
Yeah, it was a big. It was just a very widespread one, wasn't it? It was like lots of different companies used it
Yeah, like
primarily,
I,
so it
I believe
just
it is an
completely
antivirus
fucked it.
thing as well. Like so, it's like
Yeah.
it's at the what it's also Microsoft Office linked to with it as well. So then everything got shut down. My flight got delayed completely. It got cancelled. Full stop. Really. So I stayed an extra day longer than I should have, and it was a
Oh, I did think that you were. I did think that you were there for a while. I was a little bit surprised by that.
yeah, yeah,
So that
yeah.
is the
Like
reason.
yeah, that's entirely the reason. Like we end up being put in a hotel, a really nice hotel with a sauna and jacuzzi and a gym. And I,
Yeah.
at 1 o'clock in the morning, like I normally do here in London, I took a lift up, did the world's worst workout. And by that, I literally meant I looked at myself in the mirror and went, you've had a long week. Time to do shoulders. And I just did shoulders. Um, and by that, I literally did 2 sets of shoulder dumbbell shoulder presses and then showered, went into the sauna, sat there for half an hour, played Not Like Us, and then played 616 in LA, and then went through Rainbow Kitten Surprise, and then just like chilled. And I was like, this is the life. And I had the best sleep I've had in about 6 months.
Honestly,
Yeah.
actually thinking about it, that's actually a nice little treat for you at the end of all of that, because you do all of that work and then you would have had to come straight back, I assumed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
plan
Straight back and
initially.
then go into actual work. But
And then it's like, oh no, you get an
yeah,
actual
you
like
know.
an actual day of like, in Sweden, you get like a nice hotel place or whatever. Like I don't know what else. I don't know if there was anything like expected, but just got to have a nice day.
Yeah, just to look after
Just chilling
a
out.
team that wasn't my own team. My actual team got sorted out. I sorted them out to get them back home
Hmm.
by very different methods that I can't really discuss. And then I stayed with uh, good old Kez
Trafficking.
and his own team. Yeah, trafficking. And that's why I'm in handcuffs. But yeah. It was that was a good little like ending to it all. And yeah, it's really weird. And now here we are. I think it's just like I don't know. I've reached a weird point in life now where I'm thinking, what is next? Like I actually don't know what is next. And I'm excited, also terrified, but I'm just like, what is next? That's probably be the title of the episode. What's next?
Was
What is next?
um just so I like actually provide something this episode rather than just talk about my holiday. There was something I was thinking about this when you were talking about that guy that you were working with, and it was to do with people, right? because I was thinking about like my experience here and specifically my brother. I love my brother. I think my brother's one of the coolest people, and not in a like not in a oh, he's so amazing kind of way, like not even remotely. It's more like I think he's really cool because he's so because like because he's not like how do I describe this? Because I can see the potential for him to like become this amazing person while at the same time he is already an amazing person. I should be clear, but the idea of him of like what he will eventually become off of that, because he is such a good like kind of like you in a way. He's got like such a good like foundational structure, and so and he's and I can see like where that could end up, like what that could end up building out in the future. Um, and he's and also he just has a very different vibe to what a lot of people have in a way that's mildly inspiring, I guess. Like inspirational almost seems like the wrong word. It feels more like it, but it's more like, hey, things can be done a different way. Like just don't be like so don't get so much in your head about about like the structures telling you kind of how you should be or whatever. Like there's a lot more than that. It's kind of how it's kind of the way I would describe it. It's not inspirational. It's more like it's more kind of simple but also revolutionary in certain ways. It's more like fundamentally quite. He's more fundamentally interesting, I guess I would say, than the word inspirational can give. Um, and it just made me think the about like the reason why, like, and I know that about my brother, and that's why I like interacting with him. That's why I like being around him, and this is also something that I wouldn't say like my experience with him in that way has been the case for all of our life, like not remotely. But as we've grown up and he's grown up and whatever, like this is now how I feel about him and stuff like that. And you don't get to like it rubs off on me, like certain like things he says and things I kind of like pick up off of him, positive things I pick up off of him. I pick off of I pick up off of on him only when like he's around. But part of the reason of that is interesting. And I was thinking about this the other day. The experience of being around someone in the flesh and seeing a person who is capable of saying, doing, being certain things is something. There's something like sort of the quality of that of actually like being around someone like that, as opposed to seeing them online or reading a book by them or something or that kind of thing, like that kind of indirect experience is fascinatingly different. Like the quality of it is so different, and the effect that it can have on you is so different, because it's not just the idea of, oh, look at what they're able to create, like look at what they're able to craft, look at that thing, look at that thing. It's also the fact that I interact with him and I get this sense uh of, oh, this is a kind of person that can exist that completely um dismantles my day to day of people. You know what I mean? Like it's like he's unique in a certain way that makes me go, oh, when I look at people in my life, or when I look at when I think of my work day and things like that, you see a lot of similar. You get a lot of similar feelings because a lot of people don't really provide very much to you, and it's real easy to get this sense of like to get jaded basically by people that are suffice to say, like not really bringing a lot to the table in general. And then when you have someone who is like, who's able to, who kind of transcends that in a way, and as a person, as a human being, is just a lot. There's a lot more to it. Is it's is I guess it's hopeful. Does that make sense? Like it
Yeah,
makes you
yeah, yeah.
hopeful about like what human beings could be generally, you know? And to be clear, because it obviously it comes across a certain it can come across a certain way. It's not that I I like my brother for many reasons, but the thing is that what I'm again kind of pushing also towards is that he's someone who has yet to improve fully, right? Like I know it's the case of like I love him dearly, but he also is himself doing the work to improve himself and learn and be a better person, be and also understand him and be himself in the most genuine way possible. Which normally, I think me and you have had a conversation in the past about like identity and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if there's a version of me, like, things like that. And then I look at him and the way he is when is being himself, and I'm like, oh, I believe it now. I believe it. Like it's like there's something different about watching him be as a person, where I'm just like, oh, suddenly I believe in identity.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's a real odd thing. But there is this sense of like interacting with him. I think the biggest thing that comes to mind is just me going, oh, he understands himself in a way that I still don't. And he's younger than me. He's a younger brother, but he has like a sort of personal. It's not like a personal, like total understanding. It's more like he has a personal desire uh, to maintain who he is, and that who he is not an aesthetic. It's not an image of himself. It's a genuine like it's the soul of himself, if that makes sense. And he said something to me which is a quote. Uh, he wants to get a tattoo to do with with partly with the quote from Maya Angelou. Do you know Maya
No,
Angelou?
Joe, I don't know how tall. Who is she, Joe? Like,
I'm saying it slightly. I wasn't saying that expecting you to be like, no, no, no. Who is she? No, but like, I was just kind of. I don't know. I was trying to be polite, I think, but then at the same time, it's like, of course you know who it is. Um, but yeah, like, and so he'd been reading Maya Angelou recently, which I didn't realize, and he wanted to get her quote about courage. Um, where of like I think courage is the most valuable is the most I'm paraphrasing, so please if you just put in please put in Maya Angelou courage and you'll see the actual quote, and you won't know in your head my shitty version of it, but it's that it's to say that courage is the most worthy of values, or or something like that, because without courage you can't trust yourself to act in any other value consistently. So which I think is a very important like kind of sentiment about the idea of it's real easy to give up on your convictions. You can have your convictions all you want, but if push comes to shove, and then you're too scared to follow them, or you don't follow them consistently with kind of a sense of with a strength of character to it, then there is nothing that prevents you from kind of acting like cosplaying a conviction, over actually like living one. And I just thought that was really well said. And I also thought to myself how I probably should actually kind of do some self reflection on that, because I think courage is one thing that I lack as a kind of not as a not because I think like I was a cowardly person, but more so that I think I got hurt by the world, and then that made me scared. And as a result, that then made me not want to delve outside of like very safe, you know, again, avoidant personality. Like it made me not want to engage with the world. It made me scared to kind of engage with the world. And it did make me think, oh, actually, you know what? There probably is a lot of things that I need to be doing as an individual. So that's what I mean by like the that he is a very interesting character, but he himself is not specifically inspirational. But the fact that he cares about this sort of thing, I think is really interesting and important and all of that. Um, anyway, And so yeah, I was thinking about that, and then thinking about your guy that you were describing, and the times in my life where I've come across people like that. And the thing I think in my head is, by complete comparison to, as for example, my brother, where I'm like not in awe, but in like kind of mesmerized by his presence of like, oh, this is a person that's different, and I like that. And it's a positive one that I wish was like we saw more. That it's a good thing that a person like my brother exists. And then I meet people where I'm like, how did you how did you come to be, and how sad it is that you exist. Like, I'm so sad that you are someone that you are someone that the world has made, like I'm not like not in like in a very like kind of sad for them as well. Like, I'm sad that you have to live the life you live, because it feels like it feels like it's so painful to be you. Um because it's so, I'm frustrated with you, and I can't imagine how frustrating your life must feel for you because of how frustrating you are, like in general, and what led up to that point, what led to that position. And it's in a and it's sad because that one happens way more than the positive one, unfortunately, or it feels like that.
Yeah. Well, they
um
say courage is the most important of all virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any virtue consistently. You can practice any virtue erratically, but nothing consistently without courage.
there we go. And then the erratic part I forgot about. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Like,
um
I always think about like, sorry, were you finished?
no, yeah, I
All
was
right.
actually.
Like those people who act the way they do, and it's not just him, the guy from the coaching thing. It's a lot of people who are, like, they have uh, an amount of courage to be the person that they are, to be so blunt and forthright with what they do and what they say, to put themselves out there in that way, um,
Nice one.
and to effectively stand on business. And when you stand on business, you kind of think, oh, that person's cool then, right? No, you can stand on business and the business is bankrupt, like,
Hmm.
and that's kind of where we are with a lot of life's like characters, really. Like, we're gonna lose voters here, but we're gonna lose supporters here, but like Donald Trump, for example, his businesses are all bankrupt. Um, there's nothing morally righteous about what he actually stands for, but he stands on business. He backs and believes what he's saying to an extent. So it's very easy to think, oh, that's someone who's worth following, because they say it how it is. And I've noticed one thing about people in general. The people who in life are known for being blunt speakers are the least blunt speakers ever. Like, you
Hmm.
hear Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, Donald Trump, and like any of those people. Oh, I like them. Why? Because they say it how it is. And then the follow up question I need to always ask is, what exactly do they say? And you get the ums and the ahs then. Um, Primarily because, what do they actually say? Like, they're talking a lot, but they're not actually saying anything. And it's and the thing is that people who think I'm just going after the far right or right wing politicians. No, 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 no. Like, anyone who is like in any sort of sphere in which their voice is their biggest like tool, they speak a lot, but they don't actually say anything, because there's a monetization that comes with their voice. Like, if you look at anyone who is a YouTuber and they discuss politics, they're just saying the same thing over and over again, but they're not actually saying anything. There's no substance behind the words that they're saying. Um, it's why whenever I like see YouTube channels who like upload videos every single day, I realize that the only thing that they're uploading is their opinions on other people's business. I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, that's one way to get people to hear your voice consistently without you having to actually put any depth behind the words you're saying. So it's like these drama channels. There's nothing like, what happens when the drama dies? Like, so you're constantly in search of something now to talk about.
Yeah, the drama never dies though. There's always more
But
drama.
I've looked at, like, I used to follow like, a few drama channels. used to be guys playing Call down or whatever on discussing subjects. I realized, well, they have to dig deeper or drama themselves say is beneath them even discussing. Because what quantifies as drama is changing because the world around is changing. Like it used to be people like, you know, being outed as being really horrific to people, da da da. Da. And now it's like, oh, this person isn't getting paid by the sponsorship deal, and now we're gonna hear my opinion on it. And it's like, cool, that's all well and good, but you're you're talking a lot, but does your voice actually mean anything? Like, I don't know. That's why I found myself like weary to make reaction videos or things like that. I'm thinking, but what is my voice being added to a pile of fire? What does it really actually mean? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't like. I need something that would. I want to either change my own outcome through conversation or discuss somebody else's outcome with them rather than just being like, here's what I think. Yeah, I don't know. Because we're in a state now where I feel like online creators, which we are technically in that category, but there's a weird pressure to conform to a certain like mindset and a certain like schedule. And it's sort of this thing where like we kind of acquiesce to things, right? So I've always said that we'll never ever do things like we're never gonna change the word suicide to unalive. That's never gonna happen. Ever. Like if you say unalive anywhere, I'ma smack you, Joe. And if I say unalive anywhere,
Even ironic.
yeah. And if I say unalive anywhere, you better try and smack me, okay? Like I feel like we just fall in line in a way to, oh, this policy says this, so I guess we got to do it. No, like if we actually care about the subject we're talking about, we're gonna say suicide. Like we're not gonna just be like we don't want to get demonetized. No, no, we're gonna say the actual word. You know, I get it. Abbreviating words like sexual assault and things like that. Cool, that makes sense. That makes sense. But in times where it doesn't, just say it. You know, oh, we're going to get demonetized. Well, if you care about being demonetized so much, then why even start the topic in the first place? If your main thing is to earn monetization from this, then why even have the topic going in the first place? You know, why talk about the subject if you know that you can't even commit to it fully?
I don't know if I quite agree with the whole of everything that you said, but I understand the idea of like there's I definitely understand the idea that there is a what's the word? There's sort of a difference. There's sort of a thing that ends up happening when when you have this kind of effect in a system and how that ends up changing the format in a way that's kind of losing in a way that kind of muddies the water on things um and doesn't really like talk about a subject properly or doesn't get to like what needs to be spoken about or how it should be spoken about. And wouldn't it be better if we tried to do if we did other things in order to like maybe get the rules changed or whatever rather than like just bowing to them for money. But I don't know if I see the full maybe in a larger context or in a context I'm more familiar with, that would what you're saying would make a lot more sense to me.
Yeah,
But I don't quite see the full
like
like nature of it, I
because
guess.
I get it. You might want to discuss something really badly, but also this is your like full time job. Cool. I see the
Yeah.
nuance there for sure. But then there's some guys who
There needs to be some avenue.
yeah, but like there's some avenue of revenue, effectively, right? Cool, I get it. But then there's also some people who just like force. I think why I don't really follow drama anymore is because it kind of feels really forced by those reporting it. And like I remember seeing, I think I discussed it before, like Pyrocynical discussing the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, and like the guy couldn't even pronounce Tory Lanez. He's pronounced it Tory Lanez. I'm like, like I love your stuff, but you're forcing this shit, man. Like, you don't have to discuss it.
Yeah.
I get it, but you don't have to discuss it. Like this is clearly like a surprisingly above your pay grade. Like, given how many other people have spoken about it and they've cheapened the hell out of it, but it's surprisingly above your pay grade. Just like I wouldn't be caught dead talking about like a horror game, right? Why? Because it's above my pay. It's above my pay grade. Like, I've nothing of worthwhile to contribute to it apart from me screaming and crying if I'm made to play one. Like, but I can't discuss the folklore behind it or the fan fictions behind it or the theories behind it. I don't know. But you show up and you say, "Hey, Tory Lanez," is like, well, like, I get it. There's a revenue stream, cool, but like, think about the fact that your voice is cheapened in that way. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that I
even think
think I
that about football
understand for
sometimes.
sure.
I'm like, hey, like, maybe we don't need to always hear your opinion on football because they're mostly wrong and they're somewhat inflammatory. But I realize with football, the access to information is a lot easier, and the ability to form an opinion is also a lot easier. So it's okay to be confidently incorrect and to form an opinion because it's like a lot of it's open for that, you know? Like, you can say, oh,
Hmm.
who's the best like Premier League striker of the modern era or whatever? And you can have people with loads of different answers, and none of them will be correct and none of them will be correct either because open to interpretation. But when it comes to like, oh, like rap beef or whatever, it's quite clear like the facts behind these things as well. If you have ears, then you can tell like who won what, especially. And I get it. You could say, "Oh, but it's still open to interpretation." Now, if you're gonna sit here and tell me that any of Kendrick's songs were better than any of, were worse than any of Drake's songs, then Jesus Christ. But again, open to interpretation. Who knows, right? But yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not saying stay in your lane. 'Cause I'll be very hypocritical to us both. But understand the role that you're applying to do.
Yeah, and just I think you've said this in the past that like, yeah, you just don't need to talk about this thing. You don't have to. Like, we can. I think that's one thing that is a little bit lacking in general from the kind of from all of the spaces, whether it be like from whatever it may be. Um, that is the talking about talking about everything rather than like talking about descript aspects. Like talking about specific things rather than just literally going and talking about every fucking thing that happens. And it's like, you just don't need to do that. Like, it's there's already going to be someone doing it better than you, and it's not worth like just putting out everything possible and talking about everything because also it's not it makes things bigger than they actually are, which I've kind of similar to what you spoke about before with like with you know with politic and election anxiety and things like that. The idea like things just get blown out of proportion sometimes, or and you know and you just get every fucking nobody's giving like their opinion or saying some fucking just crazy out there shit, even if they don't actually believe the thing that they're saying. They're just kind of saying it because it's sensational or like it's like a big like, oh, there is a suspicion online that says that it was done, it was an inside job, and it's like and it's like, is there any evidence for that? No, not at all. But it's a thing that someone thought, so I said it, and it's like, what? Why did you put us like? What was the point in kind of like giving a like was it like platforming almost an idea like that? Uh, God, like there is a specific thing that has happened while I've been on holiday and you've been in Sweden, which I think neither of us have mentioned, and I don't think we're going to mention in this episode now. Um, not because not because I think that we're not like, you know, incredible experts that have lots and lots to say on a matter such as that, because of course, why wouldn't be? But you know, it's more like, why at this point, like, why bring it up for the point of just like kind of saying it, that it happened, you know? Like, I'm not saying what we won't maybe talk about in like, I don't know, next week, but I would rather see like more repercussions maybe from it, or maybe like when it gets closer to a certain date in the year that we might mention it more or whatever, because it will become sort of aware in our lives and we'll be paying attention to the news and things like that in a particular way.
Yeah,
So
man. Like,
then that will make sense to talk about it. We don't have to
like,
just like fucking just
I think I'm
chat
gonna
shit.
actually discuss it right now. Andy Murray retiring from tennis is like absolutely
Fucking
like
hell, Andy
like I
Murray.
just
Gosh,
he said it was an open
can't believe
secret,
it.
but like still that being confirmed, he better win gold at the Olympics, you know. But he doesn't really do storytell finishes, so he's probably gonna lose in the
Yeah.
he's gonna lose in the first round. but he'll go down fighting and it'll be cool. And
Yeah, he's such a sniper though. He does trump the competition a lot of the time.
like, yeah, but having half a hip doesn't really help. And I got
Well, he should always be able to trump the competition, even if you know, sniping
I got it
away,
the first time, Joe.
taking shots. Shall we stop? Shall we
I
stop?
think that is time. Guys, we're gonna
Yeah. All right. Cool.
we're gonna take 2 steps to the rear and get out of here.
Just edit that second one.
We're
Oh shit!
in the wind. See ya.